All right, we are live. We are live. Okay, perfect. What are we talking about? Let's check out Northwood Space. So Northwood Space is a company. I think space company. They recently raised $30 million. It's led by Bridgit Mendler, and that's another interesting story. But let's get into this. Startup based in El Segundo. El Segundo is the hardware. Is the hardware or hard tech or deep tech? Yeah, the hardware, hard tech, deep tech startup zone, founded 23 by Bridget Mendler, Griffin Cleverly, CTO, and Shoria Luthra, head of software. The company focuses on revolutionizing satellite ground infrastructure by mass producing ultra wideband gateways and phased array antenna systems called Portal to enhance data transmission between Earth and space. Okay? Revolutionizing satellite ground infrastructure by mass producing ultra wideband gateways and phased array antenna systems called Portal to enhance data transmission between Earth and space. Their mission is to create a data highway that expands access to space, addressing the bottleneck in ground station availability and outdated infrastructure, which has lagged behind the growing space industry. Northwood targets low Earth orbit satellites, initially aiming to provide rapid deployment within days, not months, and scalable shared ground networks for commercial, civil, and defense operators. Portal system uses digital phased array antennas capable of connecting up to 10 satellites simultaneously with data rates over 1 gigabyte per second per beam, outperforming traditional parabolic dish antennas 1 to 3 connections. The prototype antenna Frankie was tested in North Dakota in October 24, achieving bidirectional communication with Planet Labs satellites in S band and X band frequencies within 6 hours of setup. Raised significant capital, 6.3 seed round, 30 million Series A. February 24, led by Founders Fund and A16Z, with participation from Also Capital, Long Journey Ventures, Box Group, and Humba Ventures. In April 25, led by Alpine Space Ventures and Andreessen Horowitz, with Also Capital, Founders Fund, and Stepstone Group to scale their ground network. The founders bring diverse perspective. Mendler, a former Disney Channel actress, holds degrees from MIT and Harvard Law School and developed an interest in space law at the FCC's Space Bureau. Cleverly and Luther are former Lockheed Martin engineers, with Cleverly working at MIT Corporation and Luther at Capella Space. The team includes 32 employees and operates a 35,000 square foot manufacturing facility in LA area. Wow, this is really cool. Like, they raised $30 million and it's just a 32 employee company. They're also going for the same thing, that hey, let's use AI for everything. And they are really focused on hardware, so they can really deploy all their skills towards this hardware without worrying too much about not worrying too much about without worrying too much of the competition. Maybe market context, with over 5,500 satellites in orbit in 2022 and projections of 58,000 by 2030. Ground stations around 8,000 globally are insufficient to handle increasing data demands. Northwood aims to address this gap, competing with companies like Blue Marble Communication and Amazon's AWS ground station service. Mendler pitched Northwood at the Space Symposium in Colorado Springs, highlighting the rapid deployment capabilities, repositioning Frankie in 1 hour. The company is scouting locations in the US, Europe, Australia, and New Zealand for portal sites, with operations planned for 25. Okay, so now they are really focused on. So it makes sense. Like, for 6.3 million seed round was all about testing the idea, making sure the technology works, and now 30 million Series A is put the portal everywhere on Earth. Critical perspective. While the vision is ambitious, the space industry's ground segment is indeed a critical but underserved area, often overshadowed by flashy rocket and satellite ventures. Their focus on shared software defined infrastructure draws parallel to cloud computing's impact on software, potentially lowering barriers for smaller operators. However, scaling global network faces challenges like regulatory hurdles, geopolitical restrictions on site locations, and competition from established players like Eutelsat and Amazon. The involvement of high profile investors suggests confidence, but the capital intensive nature of manufacturing and deploying ground stations could strain resources or adoption lags. Mendler's unconventional background has drawn attention, but her academic credentials and the technical expertise of her co founders provide a solid foundation. The execution will be key. Yeah, I think now in today's age, the academic credentials don't matter. Like, if you can just do things, you can just do things. Very funny to say it, but you can just do things. But again, her academic credential, it's very stupid to say that it has drawn attention. It has drawn attention in the most positive way. Okay, um, let's look at this. Com- Help me, or is Northwood Space a competitor of SpaceX, or is it supposed to help SpaceX get better? Let's see. Not a direct competitor at SpaceX, but rather operates in a complementary segment of the space industry. SpaceX focuses on launch service, satellite manufacturing, and space exploration, while Northwood Space specializes in ground infrastructure, especially advanced ground stations for satellite communication. Enhances satellite data transmission by providing scalable high speed ground stations that can connect with multiple satellites simultaneously. This could benefit SpaceX Starlink constellation, which relies on ground stations to deliver internet services. Northwood's rapid deployment software defined ground stations could help SpaceX expand or optimize its Starlink network, especially in underserved regions, by providing more efficient data links without SpaceX needing to build its own ground infrastructure. Northwood targets the broader satellite operator market, commercial, civil, and defense, not launch or satellite manufacturing. Hmm. Their customers include companies like Planet Labs, not necessarily SpaceX's core business. While both companies operate in the space ecosystem, they address different bottlenecks. SpaceX reduces launch costs, while Northwood tackles ground station scarcity and outdated tech. SpaceX could theoretically partner with or use Northwood's ground stations to improve Starlink's performance, especially as Starlink's satellite count grows over 6,000 as of 25. Northwood's ability to deploy ground stations quickly within days and handle high data rates aligns with Starlink's need for robust, scalable ground connectivity. However, SpaceX also builds its own ground stations for Starlink, so any collaboration would depend on cost, performance, or strategic alignment. The only potential overlap is if SpaceX perceives Northwood as competing for ground station market share in the broader satellite communication ecosystem. However, Northwood's focus on shared infrastructure for multiple operators versus SpaceX's proprietary Starlink ground station makes it unlikely. Competitors are more aligned with companies like AWS Ground Station, Eutelsat, or Blue Marble Communication. Let's quickly see if we have photos of AWS Ground Station. A cloud service for satellite operators. So Amazon is also in a great position over here, because Amazon already, like already if you're building a satellite, after the hardware aspect of it, everything else is software and cloud, and AWS is good at it. AWS knows how to do it. Okay. Compare Northwood with AWS Ground Station. And while they do that, we'll look over here. Bridgit Mendler is officially the CEO of a startup called Northwood Space. The aim of Northwood Space is to provide grounded satellite stations that act as a highway of data communication between Earth and outer space. Expect the unexpected. So excited to announce a 6.3 million seed round led by Founders Fund and A16Z with participation from Capital also. Oh, Capital also. Okay, very interesting. Very specific. Warda, Radiant Nuclear. Okay. Long Journey Box Group, Humba VC. Humba. In Northwood, we have our sights on building a data highway between Earth and space. We are designing shared ground infrastructure from first principles to expand access to space. We have a lot of work ahead of us, but that's the fun part. Bridget Mendler is adding space CEO to her list of actress, singer, and songwriter, introducing Northwood Space, which aims to mass produce ground stations and is backed by A16Z Founders Fund. Mendler, the vision is a data highway between Earth and space. For me, why the ground side matters is because it actually is about bringing the impacts of space home to people. Who would have thought ground station would be an issue today? Turns out so much data never makes it to Earth or is delayed because of this bottleneck. Excited to see more innovation in the category, not to mention safety risks that arise from lack of continuous ground contact. Wow. Who would have thought ground station would be an issue today? Turns out so much data never makes it to Earth or is delayed because of this bottleneck. For me, why the ground side matters is because it actually is about bringing the impacts of space home to people. Wow. That's very interesting. That's very interesting. What makes Northwood CEO say this? CEO Bridget Miller announced that she's hiring in Northwood Space. This could be you. Whoa, what is this? This always the season to be jolly, accepted, and starts tomorrow. This could be you. Interesting. Northwood just achieved some major technical validation. Our phased array ground station achieved bidirectional communication links over the full. I don't know why I keep clicking that. Northwood just achieved some major technical validation. Our phased array ground station achieved bidirectional communications link over the full duration of satellite passes with Planet Labs. This baby works. How do you eat an elephant one bite at a time? At Northwood. How do you eat an elephant one bite at a time? Okay, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. That is beautiful. Okay. How do you eat an elephant one bite at a time? At Northwood, we are taking on the big task of transforming connectivity between Earth and space, and a few days ago, we made meaningful progress. Here's the moment we first received signal from our array. Excited to back Bridget Mendler's startup. She's had quite the career before space. Today's ground station infrastructure is so archaic. Currently, we are able to communicate with W1 for roughly 15 minutes every hour and a half. With W1 for roughly 15 minutes every hour and a half. Okay? With Northwood, we'll be connected to W1 24/7. Oh, why? One wrong click. I keep sending you back. Here. Another one. Northwood has raised a 30 million Series A led by Alpine Space Ventures and E16Z, with also Capital Founders Fund Stepstone joining as major investors to build the ground network for the industrialized space economy. We will use this funding to expand into a 35,000 square foot manufacturing facility and deploy the first operational version of a global network of Northwood ground sites. Thanks for covering us. So this is really cool. They are manufacturing in America. Bridgit Mendler just announced her own space startup, Northwood Space, with 6.3 million funding, 6.3 million in seed funding. But that's far from the only impressive line on her resume. Okay, this is interesting. Let's look at this one. So this is her. Mendler was fully on the Disney Star track to launch her career. She had guest spots on Wizards of Waverly Place and was a lead in Good Luck Charlie. She even starred in her own Disney Channel original movie Lemonade Mouth. Outside of Hollywood, Mendler was also a music star. She scored a Hollywood Records contract and produced bangers like Hurricane and Ready or Not. Outside of Hollywood, Mendler was also a music star. She scored a Hollywood Records contract and produced bangers like Hurricane and Ready or Not. But her time at Disney was ultimately overshadowed. She had taken over in the immediate aftermath of an era that included Miley Cyrus, Selena Gomez, and Demi Lovato, a messy time to say the least. So she pivoted. She had taken over in the immediate aftermath of an era that included Miley Cyrus, Selena Gomez, and Demi Lovato. So she pivoted, leaving entertainment in favor of education. So she pivoted, leaving entertainment in favor of education. Mendler began working at the MIT Media Lab in 2017, enrolled in the college's graduate program in 2018, and started a doctorate in philosophy in 2020. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Mendler began working at the MIT Media Lab in 2017, enrolled in the college's graduate program in 2018, and started a doctorate in philosophy in 2020. And she didn't stop there. She also pursued a second doctorate at Harvard Law School in 2021, which may have originally set her down the path towards space. Mendler truly fell in love with space law during her time with the FCC's Space Bureau. Then the idea for Northwood Space hit during the pandemic. While everybody else was making their sourdough starters, we were building antennas out of random crap we could find at Home Depot. Fell in love with space law during her time with the FCC Space Bureau. Then the idea for Northwood Space hit during the pandemic. She's launching the startup with her husband, Griffin Cleverly, and business partner Shoria Luthra. Mendler will also act as CEO, her husband as CTO, and Luthra as head of software. Wow, this is beautiful. Like, you want to go into education and you back to back do things like this. You get into Media Lab, you enroll into the graduate program 2018, you start a doctorate in philosophy, then you also do Harvard Law School. But there's also, like, I have to be honest, like, when I think about this, I also think about the fact that, yeah, number one, um, I think the initial kickstart, the idea, like, everybody has innate curiosity. Every kid, every human, every kid is born with innate curiosity. Every kid is born with curiosity, drive to explore, and everything. And if when you are a kid you are put in the right position, so number one, like, mentally, if you are trained by your parents that, okay, go explore, go do the things that you want, and, like, open up the options for them, and we put them in the right positions. And the parents have to really take care over there. And with the right foundation, you can do a lot of good things. So definitely, for definitely there is a lot of involvement. I don't know, but there's a lot of involvement of, it seems like, okay, let's look into this. Let's make sure I'm not talking. What is the role of Bridgit Mendler's parents in her, let's say, Disney success? So you need the right foundation, you need the parents, so that as a kid, not only you are mentally trained for this, but also you are put into the right positions to explore. And then again, you are a kid and you're doing work, so you also need to be taken care of. They need to make sure that yes, this is your professional, this is kind of your job, but you are being taken care of, you are safe in that position. So a lot of things come over there. And then once you have covered that, now if once you have like one, not one, once you have 2 3 years of professional experience in anything, and you can see that okay, even 2 years of professional experience, 2 3 years of professional experience working in an industry, working with around people, then you start thinking in a certain way. You start thinking that okay, there's a skill that I'm really good at, and I just need to keep developing on that skill. And you start enjoying work, and you start, and then you know that, and then you know that there's an energy, and now it's all about directing that energy, channelizing that energy. Where do you want to channelize that energy? And that is really cool. And then you need you need again the freedom to be exploring that. Okay, she joined MIT Media Lab, and she's like, okay, I learned things over here, there are so many cool things. You keep testing, you keep exploring, and then you're like, do I want to exploit over here, or do I want to check the other place? So let's go to the Harvard Law School. Maybe I'm more interested in the law side of it. So you have the freedom to explore, and I think that is beautiful. That is beautiful. Bridget Mendler's parents, Harry and Sandra, played a supportive but not directly managerial role in her Disney success based on available information. While they were not in the entertainment industry themselves, their influence was significant in fostering an environment that nurtured Bridget's early passion for acting and her eventual rise to fame on Disney Channel shows like Wizards of Waverly Place, Good Luck Charlie, and Lemonade Mouth, encouraging early interest in acting. Bridget's parents supported her burgeoning passion for acting from a young age. Born in Washington, D.C. on December 1892, Bridget moved with her family to Mill Valley, California at age 8, where she first expressed interest in performing. Her parents enabled her to explore this interest by allowing her to participate in local dramatic and musical theater productions. At 8, she became the youngest performer at the San Francisco Fringe Festival, a testament to their encouragement of her early creative pursuits. This foundation support was critical as it gave Bridget the confidence and experience to pursue acting professionally. Okay, so this is really cool. It's kind of saying that yes, the parents supported. Parent support obviously matters because parent support obviously matters, but also we can see that how they didn't have experience in acting. They had zero experience in acting in the acting industry. So it was her who was really going after it. In an interview, Bendler credited her parents' guidance, stating, my parents always taught me to work hard and follow my dreams, no matter how crazy they might seem. This reflects their role in instilling a strong work ethic and ambition which underpinned her Disney career. Relocation and practical support. The family's move from Washington, D.C. to Mill Valley, California, when Bridget was 8, coincided with her growing interest in acting. While the move may not have been solely for her career, it placed her in a region with access to theater opportunities and later proximity to Los Angeles, the hub of the entertainment industry. Her parents likely facilitated her participation in local plays and theater festivals, which were stepping stones to professional roles. By age 11, Bridget hired an agent. Wow, 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 wow. Her parents likely facilitated her participation in local plays and theater festivals, which were stepping stones to professional roles. By age 11, Bridget hired an agent to secure acting jobs, suggesting her parents supported her transition to professional acting, possibly by arranging auditions or managing logistics for a young performer. Unlike some child actors whose parents take on formal management roles, there's no evidence that Harry or Sandra directly managed Bridget's career. Instead, their support appears to have been practical, providing stability and resources for her to pursue opportunities. Non-entertainment. Okay, so it seems like this kind of crazy. By age 11, Bridget hired an agent to secure acting jobs. Wow. Non-entertainment background and supportive environment. Harry and Sandra Mendler are not described as having careers in entertainment, which distinguishes their role from parents who leverage industry connections. Some sources indicate Harry's profession is not publicly detailed, while Sandra's background is similarly private. One source mentions Bridget's mother as an architect and her father as a car engine designer, suggesting a technical, mathy, sciencey household that influenced her later academic pursuits but not directly her Disney career. The lack of industry ties implies their support was more about fostering Bridget's talent and work ethic than navigating Hollywood's inner workings. Zendaya, Sky Jackson were instrumental in keeping her grounded, avoiding the pitfalls of fame by not treating her as a meal ticket or forcing her into roles. This aligns with Bridget's reputation as a well adjusted former child star, indicating her parents prioritized her well being over exploiting her fame. Hmm. Meal ticket, indicating her parents prioritized her well being over exploiting her fame. Influence on values and versatility. Bridget's parents likely shaped her values, which contributed to her Disney success and her ability to transition beyond it. Her Disney roles, Juliet Van Heusen in Wizards of Waverly Place, Teddy Duncan in Good Luck Charlie, and Olivia Wilde in Lemonade Mouth, required charisma, relatability, and versatility. Qualities that her stable upbringing may have nurtured. Her parents' emphasis on education and hard work is evident in her later academic achievements, degrees from USC, MIT, and Harvard, and her humanitarian efforts, such as her work with Save the Children and anti cyberbullying campaigns during her Disney years. These activities suggest a grounded perspective likely instilled by her parents that enhanced her appeal as a Disney star. In 2014, Bridget traveled to Guatemala for Save the Children, represented the organization at advocacy summits, and launched initiatives like the Baby Sit In to support underprivileged children. The president of Save the Children praised her passion, which may reflect values of service and responsibility encouraged by her parents. Bridget's father trained her to develop performing abilities and managed her for a decade, while mother, described as a designer hairstylist, supported the visual aspect of her career. However, this information is not corroborated by reputable sources. Okay. Supportive facilitation rather than direct involvement in the entertainment industry. They provided a stable, encouraging environment that allowed her to explore acting from a young age, supported her relocation to a creatively rich area, and instilled values of hard work and humility that made her a relatable Disney star. There's no indication that Mendler sought to capitalize on Bridget's fame, which likely contributed to her well adjusted transition to academia and entrepreneurship. Okay, perfect. And now let's go over what was the question? Where's the question we asked? Yes, right over here. Bridget Mendler made the statement, for me, why the ground side matters is because it actually is about bringing the impacts of space home to people. Vision of the company and its role in the space ecosystem. This perspective is rooted in her background, Northwood's mission, and the broader implications of their work. Bridging space and Earth, Mendler's statement emphasizes the critical role of ground infrastructure in making space technology accessible and impactful for people on Earth. Northwood Space focuses on building advanced ground stations portals that enable efficient high speed data transfer between satellites and Earth. These ground stations act as the last mile that connects space based data such as satellite imagery, internet connectivity, or scientific observations to practical applications that benefits everyday people. The ground side is not just technical infrastructure but a gateway to delivering space's potential. Global internet climate monitoring, disaster response directly to communities and industries. Example, Northwood's work with Planet Labs, a satellite operator providing Earth observation data, demonstrates how their ground stations can quickly relay imagery for uses like disaster management or agriculture, directly impacting people's lives. Her experience at the FCC Space Bureau, where she explored space. Wow, the sun is shining straight into my eyes now. All right. Yeah. Her experience at the FCC Space Bureau, where she explored space law and policy, likely shaped her understanding of how regulatory and infrastructural barriers limit space's benefits. She sees ground stations as a way to close this gap. Democratizing access to space. Mendler's vision for Northwood is to democratize access to space by addressing the bottleneck of ground station availability. Traditional ground stations are expensive, slow to deploy, and often proprietary, limiting smaller satellite operators' ability to compete, limiting smaller satellite operators' ability to compete. Let me fix the heater. All right. Northwood's shared scalable phased array antenna systems allow multiple operators to access high capacity ground infrastructure at lower cost. This aligns with our goal of bringing the impacts of space home by enabling more players, startups, researchers, and developing nations to leverage space data for societal benefits. Why it matters to her. Mendler's academic background, MIT undergrad, Harvard Law School, and her pivot from entertainment to tech suggest a deep interest in systemic change. Her statement reflects a belief that space shouldn't be an elite domain, but a resource for all, with ground stations as the enabler. Quote context. By focusing on the ground side, she's addressing a less glamorous but critical part of the space industry, ensuring that the data from thousands of satellites, 58,000 projected by 2030, reaches people in actionable ways. Human centric perspective. Mendler's diverse career from Disney Channel actress. Like in general, the role of parents is massive. It's really important for us to have, yeah, it's so important to have stable families where both parents focus on, they both realize the importance of work, they instill that same into their kid from a very young age, and the kid, they grow, they slowly explore, they slowly start exploring the curiosity, and the parents, they not only lead them in their exploration but also mentally also take care of all the resources, they get them to the adulthood in the right way, and then the kids just go all in. They know how to live a good life. Okay, building, contributing. Mendler's diverse career from Disney Channel actress to space entrepreneur gives her a unique lens on technology's role in society. Her statement reflects a human centric view where the value of space lies in its tangible benefits for people, not just scientific or commercial achievements. Ground stations, in her view, are the infrastructure that translates raw satellite data into real world solutions such as connectivity, enhancing global internet access, supporting constellations like Starlink, environmental monitoring, providing data for climate change mitigation or disaster preparedness, economic opportunity, enabling industries like agricultural, logistics, or urban planning to use satellite insights, where she worked on projects to broaden space's impact, likely and reinforce this perspective. She sees ground infrastructure as the linchpin for making spaces abstract, benefits, concrete, and accessible. Northwood's mission technology. Their portal systems using digital phased array antennas are designed for rapid deployment, 6 hours for the Frankie prototype, and can connect to multiple satellites simultaneously with high data rates. This capability makes space data more readily available, aligning with her goal of bringing space's impacts home. Like traditional parabolic dishes, Northwood's shared infrastructure reduces cost and complexity, enabling more organizations to deliver space driven services to end users. The Frankie test showed how quickly Northwood could establish communication with satellites, highlighting the potential to deploy ground stations in underserved or remote areas. The flexibility could bring space benefits to regions lacking infrastructure. She has spoken about finding purpose in solving complex problems with real world impact. Her work at the FCC and MIT exposed her to the space industry's challenges, particularly the ground segment's lag behind satellite and launch advancements. Her statement reflects a conviction that fixing the ground side is key to unlocking space's potential for humanity. With only 8,000 ground stations globally against a backdrop of rapidly growing satellite numbers, Mendler sees an opportunity to address a critical bottleneck. Her focus on the ground side stems from its outsized role in making space data usable. Cultural resonance. Her background in entertainment may also make her attuned to communicating spaces of value in relatable terms, framing ground stations as a bridge to people rather than abstract tech. Interesting. Okay, let's go to compare with AWS Ground Station. 2019, part of AWS division of Amazon, fully managed cloud integrated ground station as a service, leveraging AWS global infrastructure for satellite operators, backed by Amazon's vast resources, managed by AWS, with Shane Hawthorne as a key figure. Technology and infrastructure. Relation to SpaceX. Whoa. Complement SpaceX. Similarly complementary. Could serve Starlink by offering managed ground station services, though SpaceX proprietary ground stations reduce dependency. AWS Ground Station is a mature cloud integrated solution with global reach and reliability, best suited for operators seeking a managed, cost-effective service within the AWS ecosystem. Traditional antennas may lag in flexibility as satellite density grows. It's a challenger aiming to disrupt the market that faces scaling and resource challenges. Northwood is more advanced technology, proven with less dynamic dish antennas, scale. AWS's global operational network, pre-operational, ambitious plans. AWS's pay-per-minute model is transparent, scalable. Northwood's pricing is unclear, likely competitive. Shared infrastructure for smaller players. AWS serves a broader cloud integrated audience. Okay. Let's go to the website. Northwood Space. I remember checking out the website way back and I had no idea what they were doing because, yeah, I remember the logo. The logo is Earth, Satellite, Space. Earth, Satellite, Space. I'm guessing that's what it means. A data highway between Earth and space. Northwood is expanding access to space by rethinking shared infrastructure for satellite backhaul, building gateways that are designed for manufacturing, volume manufacturing with iterative development enabling proactive developments, scalable, dynamic capacity provisioning through horizontally scalable architecture, eliminating single points of failure while anticipating irregularities and disruptions. Dynamic capacity provisioning through horizontally scalable architecture. Okay. That's it. Okay. Explain Northwood Space's logo. Expand access to space by rethinking shared infrastructure for satellite backhaul. Whoa, lack of specific icon or symbol. Collaborate with Grand Army and its Creative Studio Space Agency to develop its brand identity system and website ahead of its public launch. Okay. A new kind of ground network for a new kind of space economy, building with a world class team and partners. Also, capital Stepstone, Alpine, Founders Fund, A16Z, Humboldt, Long Venture, Long Journey, Box. The space segment has become critical infrastructure. It powers everything from GPS and climate monitoring to missile warning and global broadband. But the ground segment hasn't kept up. Most ground networks today were designed for science missions, not for the scale, urgency, or diversity of today's space economy. At Northwood, we are building a global software defined ground network from the ground up, designed to scale as fast as the mission it supports. Whoa. Industrialized space power the next generation of space to solve real world problems at industrial scale. Just like cloud infrastructure transforms software development, we believe shared ground infrastructure will transform space operation. This makes so much sense, like why AWS would move into building AWS ground station, because they look at it in the same way. They look at it as very similar to what they did with cloud. We believe shared ground infrastructure will transform space operations. We are making it possible for any operator, commercial, civil, or defense, to move space based data quickly, securely, and reliably back to Earth. Northwood is building an efficient ground network to rapidly scale connectivity and resilience for space. What made AWS build the AWS ground station? Address the growing demand of scalable, cost-effective satellite communication infrastructure driven by the rapid expansion of the commercial space industry and customer needs for simplified data access. Rising demand for satellite data and ground infrastructure, leveraging AWS's cloud expertise, democratizing access to space. Democratize access to satellites and the enormous amounts of increasingly important data they are collecting was a key driver. Paper minute model with no long term contracts, AWS made ground station more access affordable for startups, small businesses, and non traditional players who lack the resource for proprietary infrastructure. This aligns with AWS's broader goal of enabling innovation across industries, as articulated by Hawthorne. Ground Station wants to provide one of these foundational capabilities for space entrepreneurs: market opportunity, competitive positioning. Lucrative market for AWS to dominate, much like it did with cloud computing. Ground stations were a critical but underserved segment of operators like KSAT and Atlas Space Operations relying on traditional models. AWS aimed to disrupt this market by offering a cloud-based, scalable alternative, mirroring its success in replacing enterprise data centers. Technological and strategic innovation. AWS identified ground stations as a choke point in the space data pipeline, where traditional dish antennas could only connected one cell at a time, while AWS initially used parabolic dishes that explored advanced technologies like electronically steered antennas, similar to Northwood's phased array system, to support multiple simultaneous connections. The introduction of features like wideband, DG, DIGIF, and the digital twin for pre-launch testing further streamlined operations. Customer overlap. Both serve similar clients. Capella Space uses AWS and tested with Northwood's prototype. Northwood could enhance AWS's offerings by providing phased array ground stations for customers requiring high density LEO connectivity. Yeah, I'm curious, like, why not just, what if AWS just buys out Northwood? That would be interesting. Because they just have to deploy the same technology everywhere. The builders behind the mission, we are a team of engineers, operators, and builders experience across aerospace, defense, cloud infrastructure, and advanced manufacturing, committed to building resilient infrastructure for the next century of space operations. Oh wow, is this what they are supposed to look like? Space has never been more important or more underprepared. The space segment is no longer an accessory, it is core infrastructure. It powers everything from GPS to remote asset monitoring to missile warning and global communications. As General Bradley Saltzman, Chief of Space Operations of the US Space Force, recently put it, we are no longer the icing on the cake. We are the eggs in the batter. Bro, I saw two really cool quotes today. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. We are no longer the icing on the cake. We are the eggs in the batter. Space isn't a distant frontier. We feel its impact in every facet of our lives. Yet, all of these critical applications hang in the balance of limited and fragmented ground networks of overcapacity antennas that are trusted to keep space applications afloat, while dazzling rockets launch satellites that orbit the Earth. Their effectiveness is reliant upon these antennas on Earth to send and receive the data the satellites produce. Without these ground antennas, there would be no space industry, and today's infrastructure is reaching a breaking point. Designed for an earlier era driven by science missions, these critical assets are costly, slow to build, and deploy, and fragile. Often, the outage of one ground site could jeopardize an entire mission, disrupting the essential communication needed to guide satellites and deliver timely data. And today, these outages are common as ground networks are drastically under capacity, leading operators to scale back their ambitions on what they can build and to overbook, overpay, and overengineer just to hit basic delivery timelines. And we are in a world where space is becoming more significant, not less. It's time we stop treating satellite connectivity like booking a telescope for a science project and start treating it like what it is, core infrastructure for the 21st century. I think this is how they do the blogs. It just keeps rolling like this. All right. Infrastructure for a new era. A reliable ground network deployed at scale is that mission core infrastructure powerful enough to sustain the space capabilities of today and develop the next wave of capabilities to connect, inform, and protect people on Earth. We have many models for how this can be done. The internet is industrialized infrastructure made up of common networks to reliably route large volumes of data around the globe. We need that for space. We need to make scaling antennas as easy as scaling servers and network switches. And we need to make the network of those antennas as reliable as the internet as well. Running an app doesn't mean coordinating routers or reserving fiber. The underlying infrastructure is abstracted and pooled across a large shared network that delivers the connectivity you need. In the same way, a reliable ground network at scale can enable an industrialized space economy. This would give operators of all kinds the power to build with confidence without worrying if the network will scale with them or hold up under pressure. Because when the next wildfire hits, when supply chains are disrupted, when geopolitical events unfold, you can afford to ask whether your data will arrive. A new way to build. Northwood is building a new kind of network from the ground up. We are innovating on antenna hardware developed in-house and designed for cost efficiency and manufacturability. Our vertically integrated development enables us to rapidly iterate on new products and take advantage of price and timeline efficiencies. We plan to hit a rate of 2 sites deployed per month in a new facility with systems cost at 10x less than comparable efforts. We're aiming to build the largest shared network in throughput and link capacity. Our sites will be outfitted with the ability to scale up to 100 Gbps backhaul, and we're aiming to deploy multi-link sites covering 6 continents by the end of 26. This enables storage capacity, redundancy, and global reach that modern missions require. And finally, we are building a software layer that abstracts the ground into a programmable interface to give developers flexibility and control. This opens the door to integrating space based data movement into the broader digital economy, allowing developers to automate, spin up new services, and move mission data as easily as managing cloud compute resources. It makes so much sense why AWS would get into this. North would use its seed funding to demonstrate the feasibility of a phased array prototype antenna built on 5x reduced time and 10x reduced budget compared to similar prior efforts. We designed, built, deployed, and operated the system in 4 months, ultimately performing nominal operations with Planet Labs. We have appreciated the opportunity to work in partnership with DARPA, Space Development Agency, and Department of Air Force as we continue. This funding will be used to scale production and deploy the first operational ground network, moving us one step closer towards a new industrialized space infrastructure for the 21st century. This will move us one step closer towards industrialized space infrastructure that scales as fast as the mission it supports. Perfect. Okay.